we're talking to Vern. Vern, who's calling in from Michigan. Vern, what's going on?
How's it going, guys?
Great.
Going pretty good. I swear to God, we're all sober on this show. We are all sober. Well, I can't speak for Ian, actually.
I've taken nothing today.
There you go. Well,
after
haven't
the show. That might be a different story, but right now, 100% sober.
100% sober.
This is just soda.
Yeah, this is allegedly water. So,
if I could sit around a campfire with the two of you tonight with a 6-pack of beer, I bet we could figure some stuff out.
I don't drink, but you can drink all you want. I actually gave up drinking years ago. I just never enjoyed it. I like stuff that expands my consciousness. Right. I like I'll take the psychedelics. So, but yeah, cool.
It's good stuff.
Well, I have something I want to talk to Dan about, but I do have two really quick questions for Ian. What should we do first?
You know, whenever somebody says I have two really quick questions, they're usually not as quick as people think they are.
No quick questions.
Ian's our guest. Well, let's get to those first,
sure.
And then hopefully we'll have time for the question you have me.
I'll try to give you a quick answer.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's go
the best I can.
Ian, I respect the approach you have to this stuff, man.
Thank you.
Because if I had visions and dreams that felt real and some of them came true, I would probably have the same kind of approach to it that you have.
Okay.
So I give you the thumbs up there.
Yeah.
You write books and you give presentations?
Yeah, both. Yeah, I do. I've been doing speaking engagements for about a little over a year, and I've been writing books I started writing my first book, Tripping the Field, 8 years ago, maybe more or so. So yeah, I've written books, I've written articles. If you take a look at my website, it's all connected there. So I've been doing that for years, yes.
So how often at the end of one of your presentations do people approach you and ask if you would like to smoke marijuana with them?
Well, so almost all of my presentations so far have been like these. They've been these, podcasts or whatnot, especially with COVID now. I mean, there's no personal, thing like that. But I get a lot of people. I get a lot of emails. I get a lot of people going, man, I'd love to get high with you. That'd be awesome. Sure. So yeah, the interest is there. No problem there. Sure. That'd be great.
And, I respect the way you're approaching this, and good luck on your journey. And if you figure some stuff out, let us know, because I'd love to hear it.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Anyway, now I'd like to talk to Dan.
All right, Vern, what's up?
I watched last week's episode, and you were talking to a guy that you described as a presuppositional apologist.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's a word.
How often do you interact with these guys, these presups?
I've had a couple of presuppositionalists call into the show before, and every time it hasn't been a good situation. In fact, I think it's very fair to say that the most frustrated I've ever been on this show is when I've talked to presuppositionalists.
Please fill me in. Can you fill me in real quick?
Ian.
Fill me in real quick. Can you do it?
Sorry. What it is it is a defense of Christianity.
Yeah.
That basically, in a nutshell, says you can't have logic without God. And so all of your arguments are dumb unless they start with God, and you cannot logically deduce anything without the presupposition that God has given you logic and that it's true. I mean, there's some more technical aspects to that, but that's like the gist of it.
Okay.
So yeah, you can imagine how conversations like that could be. But anyway, Vern, go ahead.
I've had the misfortune of watching the Matt Dillahunty versus Saitan debate.
Yeah.
I watched a video of Aaron Raw talking to Matt Slick, and I don't think I'm a dumb guy. I think, and I used to be a Christian, I kind of know where they're coming from most of the time. But when I listen to these presuppositional apologists, I have no idea what the heck they're even trying to say.
What they're trying to say, from my understanding, like I said, is this idea that we assume and do things based on logic, right? Like logic is kind of this thing that we more or less agree on. Did we discover it? Did we invent it? Yeah, that's a different kind of question. But we kind of have it, and we can kind of use it. And they're kind of pointing out this fact that, well, this is an assumption that you're making, that your logic makes sense, that logic is even true, that logic is even meaningful. And how can you even make that assumption, as they would frame it, right? That this is making sense without without a creator, without a God kind of making that happen, without laying the groundwork and the foundation. And I already know some precepts are going to comment on this and say I'm not telling this right, but like that's a loose understanding of what's going on here. And the problem, I hope, is obvious in that you just can't start with a God as the basis for knowing something, because you have to. I mean, it's begging the question. It's proving what you've already assumed to be true, and so there you can't go anywhere with that. And that's why these conversations feel like they go around and around and around and around in circles, and they just keep asking you, well, how do you know that? Well, how do you know that? How do you know you're not a brain in a vat? Because, like kind of in tandem to the previous call here, I don't think that we can start anywhere with this idea of truth unless we start with our observations, unless we just admit to the fact that we're beings and inputs are coming into our systems, whether it be through our eyes or ears or mouth or nose. And we have to start with our senses at some point if we're going to examine the physical world and make sense of it. And yeah, we figure out, oh, there's some fallacies in our thinking. Oh, we're not as rational as we think when we put pen to paper and we talk about like economic systems and stuff, for example, right? But like that doesn't mean that we can't like demonstrate things or make predictions about things. Even if our logic or rationality is still kind of wonky, I could still say the sun's going to rise tomorrow and we can demonstrate that. So like if we can make these basic demonstrations, then there's no reason to put God into it. There's just no reason to start there. And so that's kind of my take on it. Matt has a take on it as well. Obviously, you mentioned this. He had a debate with Sai, and he has a video on his channel about it. But it's for the most part, if you're talking to somebody who is really entrenched in presuppositionalism, it's it's a waste of time, honestly, because I think out of all the people on Earth that are going to be the least willing to change their mind, in my experience, a presuppositionalist is going to be the one where it's probably not going to happen. But I could be wrong. I could meet a presup that has changed their mind. I haven't seen that. I haven't read any testimonies of former presuppositionalists, but I guess they're out there. I don't know. So hopefully that answers. Does that answer your question, Vern?
Well, one more thing.
Okay.
Have you ever heard anyone talk about like logical absolutes? X equals X, therefore God, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, a little bit of that.
So my final thought, I'm a math teacher, right? Mm-hmm. And suppose I'm teaching the class how to solve equations, like x squared minus 5 plus x equals 7, solve for x. What if I'm in the middle of class and a student raises their hand and they say, Professor, I've noticed that at the end of all of these problems, x always equals x. How do you account for that? Before we explain why that is, we can't do any more problems. There must be a math god that's behind all of this.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why x always equals x.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I hear them saying, and I'm wondering if that's what they think they're saying.
I don't know if that's what they think they're saying, but that's definitely what it sounds like, right? Because like math, we think math is like, if we can prove something with math, then it has to be real. Like that's something that we say. But the truth is math does work on axioms too, whether they're self-evident or not, whatever. But it does work on a system of axioms. You really can't have any kind of philosophical constructive system without axioms, at least the one that makes any sense.
Yeah, you've got to agree to your terms first, right? If you can't agree to the most basic thing that x equals x, I don't know where to go from there. And that's usually my problem discussing anything with Christians or the creationists, and I've been in so many debates with them over the years, and we can't even agree on a starting a starting place, and we can't agree on on a baseline to build the conversation from. You're lost. It's folly.
Yeah, and it's frustrating, right?
Yeah.
But like
I said, x always equals x.
What's that?
Like, are they surprised to find themselves in a universe where x always equals x? Blow their mind to the point where there must be a god.
I guess.
Who knows?
How could it? I don't know, man. I don't have a brain for that. I never grew up a young Earth creationist, and so I'm always very shocked and surprised by my young Earth creationist Christian friends. when they tell me their stories. I grew up in a different kind of Christianity. So like, I imagine there's some sort of experience to your life that a presuppositionalist argument is going to make sense. But I've yet to meet somebody that wasn't already a presuppositionalist, that is convinced of any of the arguments that are made there. Cause it certainly doesn't convince me. And even if it was true, let's say presuppositionalist apologetics makes sense and is true, there's no reason why they couldn't demonstrate the existence of God or Christianity through any other means. That doesn't mean we can't look at the historical accuracy of the Bible and the events that it portrays, or the claims that people make that God intervenes into the world. We could still do that, even with their proposed system, and yet we still don't have the evidence necessary to lead us to the conclusion that any of that stuff is real. So it doesn't matter either way. And that's why I get frustrated with these calls, because it's sound and fury. It's sound and fury, it's all just nothing.
Yeah.
But,
and now we're kind of getting into the realm of what's just my opinion. But when I hear these debates these guys have, it seems like towards the end of the debate, the goal of the apologist is to just try to piss off the debate opponent. Try to say something that'll rile them up, and then you can say,
yeah,
"Ooh, you got mad at my awesome argument."
It's pretty gross. Yeah, I agree. I agree.
So I'm going to let you guys go, but I do have one final question for Ian.
Go for it, Vern.
Okay.
I would like you to tell me what color pajamas I'm wearing right now.
I can't do that. Yeah. I have no idea.
I'm just having some fun with you. I love it. Thank you for taking my call. You guys have a good night.
All right.
Thanks.